I have to walk on eggshells around them, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of them affecting my life and emotions. I've tried planting seeds on many occasions, but nothing ever changes. I'm sorry to say that I wish I had never to see them again. I cannot stand the negativity anymore. This reminds me of something Ra had said about auric infringement happening all the time in big cities. Am I failing to properly deal with the catalyst my neighbors are giving me, or are they just slowly driving me crazy? Moving is not an option for me right now. Am I right in wishing to live in the country where I would mostly only see the people I want to see and live with nature? Your thoughts on this can of worms would be appreciated. Thank you.
Peel Street guy, it's good to hear your voice. I am sorry that you're in such a pickle right now. And number one, of course you're right. Whatever you want with your whole heart is got to be right for you. I would offer some thoughts, though, that might help you where you are, because moving is not an option. And I'd like to tell a little story to begin with. Back in the day, I was 21 years old, and it was my first professional library job. I was the assistant to the librarian at Speed School. She had started the library 2 years before I was born. She was up in years when I joined her, and I was her first employee. She had no idea how to handle employees and did an appalling job of it and made my life miserable in more ways than I could ever tell you. And my first impulse was to quit. Well, I thought, people don't quit in the professions, you see. I was only 21, but I was who I am, an ethical being, and I wanted to stay in that job at least a year, which I did. And here's how I did it. I decided that I loved this woman, that I was going to act as though I loved this woman. Act as though I loved this woman. I was going to behave as though I loved this woman. But I was going to do it with a whole heart. So I found ways to deal with her that were loving. I called her Chief, which made her feel great because that made her feel like a boss. I just turned myself inside out to express love to her. And the funny thing was that within 2 months, I did love her, because behaving as though I loved her made her open to me just enough so that I could see what misery she was going through in her own life, what made her the way she was, how fearful and terrified she was underneath the bluster. And I fell in love with this woman. I came to adore her. She taught me the library business in a way no library school ever did. And 1 year later, I walked out of that job and into a job being a librarian for kindergarten through 12th grade school. And I never had a single doubt as to what my job was in any phase of librarianship, because that lady, Miss Kersey, God bless her, taught me everything I needed to know. You can turn this around. It's all within you. It's not out there. They are a hall of mirrors. I hate to tell you this because it's hard to hear, that even in the country, you are going to find things that you hate. You are going to find them in your cabin all by yourself, because the things that make you peaceful or cut up are within you. There is in all of us elements of personality that have not yet been loved, appreciated, and accepted by ourselves. We are all 360 degrees of personality. And the challenge is, when we see in the mirror something that makes us sick at our stomach, to look at that and say, where am I in that? Let me find that in myself. Now let me tell another little story. There's a Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono, and the theory there is that you heal someone else by healing yourself. This doctor believed thoroughly in Ho'oponopono, being a native Hawaiian, and he was in a Hawaiian mental hospital for criminals. And he went in, and he never met any of the criminals. He took their cases, he took their files in his office, and one by one, he would take the file, and he would read the file. And, of course, they were all desperately bad people in the eyes of the world. They wouldn't have been put away if they weren't, right? So He looked at each case file. He found that place within himself, that lost, dark, service to self place that had not yet been loved. And he set himself to heal that part of himself. He did this with all of his patients, and across the board, they all got better. Those who were not able to sit still became able to sit still. Those who were on terribly heavy medication, so they were sleeping all the time, became able to be more wakeful and still behave, basically. The healing rate shot up, and all of this was without his ever seeing those people. He was working strictly within himself. And Peel Street, this is what you got to do for yourself. You have to look yourself in the eye, not by projecting out to the other people. But when something has triggered you and you are sick to death and you can't stand it and they're treating people wrong and blah, 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 go find that place within yourself. Sit with it. Little by little, come to accept it and ask it to serve you. Ask it to serve the light that is in you. Redeem it by asking it to serve the light within you. So that as you enter your own heart, you are bringing all of yourself, the shadow side too, into your own heart. And fall in love with yourself, Peel Street. Just totally fall in love with your whole imperfect, unredeemed self. The self that you are seeing being triggered by all these people around you in the big city. They are not really there because they are you and you are they. That's the way the law of one works. So don't look away. Just keep looking into the mirror, into your own eyes, and look again, and seek the silence, and look again, and seek comfort, and look again. And little by little, you are going to find that there is a change in your eyes. There is a change in your heart. You are not going to approve of the way other people treat their children. You are not going to approve of politics or economics or the way the schools are run or any of those things that make the news and break your heart. Your heart will continue to break, but it will be a happy heart. It will be a heart of love, and it will not be a heart in which there is an iota of judgment or criticism for others. There will be an increasingly deep understanding of humanity and the bad choices that people make on a continuing basis when they are not attending to consciousness. I could say this in a lot of different ways, but it's all about love. And it's not the kind of love that is for a little while. It's not the kind of love that's human. It's the love that comes from the Creator. It's the love of Jesus on the cross saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." They truly don't know, Peel Street. They don't know what they're doing. Most people are totally unawakened. They're sleeping. That's not your problem. They can go on sleeping. Everybody's got his own alarm clock. They don't need to be awakened by you. Sure, it's fine to drop a seed once in a while, but don't look back. Toss it over your shoulder and go on your way, because it's time for you to be joyful. Find the joy within you that it passes all human understanding, and live there every single moment that you can. I wish you the best of luck, because this is a long and hard journey. But every day, in every way, you can do it. Good luck.
Okay. Whew. Okay, that was awesome. I love the story about the I never can say that. Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Okay. Okay. With the doctor, that's such a beautiful story and a wonderful technique as well. The prayer that goes with that. Carla, you covered that pretty thoroughly, but I was wondering if you could just briefly expound a bit more, I guess that's contradictory there, briefly expound on the aspect of the mirrors. You mentioned that we're mirroring to one another and find that aspect of yourself that's being mirrored by the other person. What if someone feels that, oh gosh, there's no way that person is, I'm nothing like that person. How can I possibly find that aspect in myself? It's not there. I'm nothing like that. Could you maybe address that? Like, how do we find that aspect that's being mirrored to us? How do we find it in ourselves?
Okay, sure. Well, of course, our enculturation encourages us to behave. From the earliest years of our lives, we are not taught to be, we're taught to behave. We are not taught to value our unredeemed selves. We are taught to conform, to adapt. This is the way things are done. This is manners. This is, this is the way you must ask in order to slip through the wheels of society without causing any squeaks. And, there is a tremendous power that our peers have to cause us to conform. Everybody remembers school days, and gosh, I remember when I was in school, the look was real preppy, and there was a certain white blouse with a Peter Pan collar and it was just a certain brand. It was one particular blouse. If you didn't have that blouse, you were not quite with it. And I never got that blouse because it was an expensive $32 blouse, and this was back in the 60s and 50s when $32 would be like over $100 now. So I never had the right clothes, but I felt that. I knew that I didn't look quite right. I had the loafers, but they weren't Baswegians. They didn't have the tassels. Those were expensive shoes. I had loafers, but I didn't have the right ones. And there were all these minor differences that were huge in my eyes, and it mattered to me at that time. So these things loom large, and we want to conform, we want to adapt, we want to be normal, we want to belong, and so we grow up doing our best to fit in and adapt. And, of course, some of us can't do that. A lot of the people that are wanderers, a lot of the people that the raw material speaks to, never were able to adapt a moment in their whole lives, and so they were always on the outside looking in and never felt at all comfortable with the crowd. But there was that wish that it could be easy, that we could fit in. And you see, all of this is talking about the surface of life. We're taught to skate across the pond, or say even the ocean of life, like a water bug, never breaking the surface, just floating on the meniscus, floating on the buzz and on what's in and how to adapt and how to belong. So when you attempt to see the world as a hall of mirrors and to get the world to speak to you in a way that indicates that you're a responsible human being that is attentive to the present moment and that is really attempting to work life like the game it is, to go not just a little below the surface, but deeply below the surface, so that you can move into finding out who you really are. You're going against all the intuitions that you've been taught since childhood. And a lot of people get stuck right there. It's just like, I can't do this. I don't see it. Most of all, once we have decided that we are going to adapt, we play a role. We wear a mask. We're the good person. We always do the right thing. We've got rules. We can show them to you. It's the 10 Commandments. It's the rules of society. It's the rules in the Constitution. It's the rules of law. It's rules, rules, rules. And, you just list one thing after another, and that's who you are. You're the good person. Well, we're all things. The law of one says we are all things, all feelings, all emotions. We are everything that there is, because there is only one thing, and that is the Creator. We're all part of the Creator. And that's true. You see, we have a brain with our head,